I used to believe that growing old with someone meant growing closer. But somewhere between carpool schedules, business dinners, and awkward silences, I became invisible. Ryan wasn't always distant. He used to kiss my forehead just because. But over the last 2 years, things shifted. He'd come home late, mutter a dry hey, scroll through his phone all evening, and barely look up when I spoke. It wasn't dramatic. It was gradual, like someone slowly turning the volume down on your existence. I didn't even notice at first. Until one night, we were dressing for a friend's anniversary party, and I asked him how I looked. He said, "It's fine, but you really should stop wearing tight dresses at your age." That stuck. It wasn't just what he said, it was how easily he said it. I laughed it off then, but inside I felt cracked. I started checking myself in mirrors longer, wondering if the lines were deeper. I downloaded yoga apps, changed my hair, even tried cooking different cuisines to spark something. But Ryan was cold in the bedroom, uninterested in my efforts. He'd make excuses, tired, stressed, deadlines. I started believing maybe I really was the problem. Maybe he had outgrown me. The tipping point was subtle. We were hosting a small garden dinner. That's when I met Daniel. He was helping his cousin with the setup. Younger, maybe 10 years or so. Casual charm, sun in his smile. He made everyone laugh, including me. When I excused myself to get drinks, he followed and said, "You have the most intoxicating laugh." I rolled my eyes, called him a flirt, but something in me stirred. It wasn't just the words, it was how he looked at me. Like I was visible. I tried not to read into it, but afterward I caught myself thinking about that moment too often. That compliment echoed louder than anything Ryan had said in years. The next few days, I kept going back to that night, replaying it like a teenage fantasy. And then it happened again. I ran into Daniel at the grocery store. We chatted. He remembered my wine preference. Called me radiant. That word, radiant. I went home smiling like an idiot. Meanwhile, things with Ryan got colder. He'd pick on small things, my perfume being too strong, my questions too emotional. I stopped expecting warmth. Stopped asking for anything. And yet, I couldn't ignore the fire Daniel had sparked. I wasn't looking to cheat. I was just craving to feel alive. Noticed. Desired. I'd lie in bed next to Ryan and feel 1,000 miles away. It was the worst kind of loneliness. The kind you feel while someone's lying right beside you. And when someone finally makes you feel seen, even briefly, it becomes impossible to unsee the emptiness you've been swallowing for so long. I told myself it was harmless. Just conversation. Just attention. But deep down, I already knew it wasn't innocent. The way Daniel looked at me made my skin flush. There was no shame in his gaze, only hunger masked as curiosity. We kept running into each other. At the bakery. On the sidewalk. Every time, we spoke a little longer. He always said something that caught me off guard. "You have a softness about you people don't see right away. Your voice calms me." Words I hadn't heard in years. Ryan only spoke to correct me. Daniel made me feel like I was poetry. It started with a few messages. He asked if I got home safe after a dinner. Then we shared playlists, jokes, and slowly, pieces of ourselves. I told him I used to write once. That I felt like I had faded. He said, "You haven't faded. You've just been put on mute." I saved that message. Reread it in the bathroom with the door locked. Ryan barely noticed me anymore. He scrolled past me like I was another app. The emotional neglect became normal. I'd mention something and he'd grunt. Or worse. Nothing. We hadn't touched each other in weeks. Every part of me screamed for warmth, for spark, for attention. Not even sex, just intimacy. Presence. But silence was all I got. Daniel noticed everything. A new bracelet. A chipped nail. A tired smile. He said I carried sadness beautifully. That's when I stopped pretending. This wasn't just flirtation. It was emotional oxygen. One evening, we talked in his car for an hour. I told him things I'd buried. He listened with both ears, both eyes, and every ounce of focus. His hand brushed mine. I didn't pull away. I just closed my eyes. That moment changed everything. I didn't sleep that night. Not from guilt, but from confusion. How could someone who barely knew me make me feel more whole than the man I'd loved for years? The next day, Daniel sent me a voice note. If you were mine, I'd never make you feel unseen. My throat closed. I wanted to cry, scream, laugh, kiss him, all at once. I knew this wasn't sustainable. But I also knew I couldn't go back to the hollow routine of pretending. Ryan and I lived like polite strangers. And here was this man who barely knew my last name, but somehow knew exactly where I was broken. I stopped waiting for Ryan to notice. I started waking up with Daniel's words in my head. I bought a red lipstick I hadn't worn in a decade. He noticed it the next time we met and smiled like I was a secret worth keeping. Every day that passed, the line between fantasy and reality blurred. And soon it wasn't about if I'd cross it, it was when. It happened faster than I imagined, and slower than I'd admit. One night after a vicious argument with Ryan over nothing, me asking if he'd be home for dinner, him snapping that I was suffocating, I left the house without thinking. I texted Daniel,